Just a few weeks ago, we lost a Hollywood legend, Louis Gossett Jr., who went from fiddler on Roots to an officer and a gentleman to driving Miss Daisy. Louis Gossett Jr. had a long career in Hollywood and was also featured recently in the musical film adaptation of The Color Purple. And we caught up with Louis Gossett Jr. A few years ago when he talked about his his autobiography memoir. And so a special treat from the archives, remembering the late Louis Gossett Jr. talking about his book, An Actor and a Gentleman.
Wow, what a great introduction. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us on the program. And, you know, you're one of these people that we look at, we see you on the shows. We know that when you're in a role, you're going to consume it. You're going to be all in it. And that's a tribute to your longevity in the business, but not only that, your commitment to the craft. And I think, if anything, for those young people who are looking to do this, that's what makes the difference, doesn't it? It's the commitment.
That's what makes it sing. You know, we can do quick, it's a short attention generation, you know, but certain things that are meaningful for your life, you need to take the time.
You talked about taking the time, and how do you put a message out like that, Louis, that would encourage young people in the get it now, tweet it now, Facebook it now, move on to the next thing now generation, to take the time to study? Because people think it's, I can just get on the stage and do it. But they don't realize that a Louis Gossett Jr. or Denzel Washington or any other actors or actresses who are out there doing their thing spend hours becoming the character.
Well, it's a devotion. It's a way of life. It's not just a job you do. Some people say it's just a job, but it's an art. It's a craft for me. Mm-hmm. And the age of the craftsman is almost gone. We need to bring some of it back. And the place we should bring some of the craftsmen back is in the arts.
It's so
the
true.
Piano player, the guitar player, the actor, the dancer. You need to put your time in.
And when you say put your time in, you mean study and
study and work. And even when you're not getting paid, that's just what you do. If you're a waiter, you're still an actor. If you're driving a cab, you're still an actor. You can apply everything to what you do when your life's devotion is your craft, your art.
You in the book, An Actor and a Gentleman, you take us through the ride, and I quite frankly was surprised at some of the things that we learn about you. You know, it's funny because we see you in all the different roles, whether it's in Sadat or whether it's in an Officer and a Gentleman, that there you are as dignified and as powerful, and yet when you first went to Hollywood, it wasn't all that, and it continued not to be all that for you.
Well, racism is a thing that pervades all of us. And we had to do us against them a lot. We were slaves, and in Africa we fought against other tribes. That's how we created and survived at early stages. But today we have a different ballgame. Everybody's living everywhere. That can't apply anymore. And now it becomes a cancer. It becomes a virus in society, racism. We can't go any further without getting rid of it. And the best way to do it is to apply it, not pass it on and pass it on to our children.
You know, it's so true. And you've actually established a foundation called E-Racism.
Yes.
To do that. That's sensitive to many of us here because we work through some of the efforts here on a community-wide dialogue to end racism. Tell me why it was important for you to establish an organization like this.
Well, I figure after the track record, and I look at the shelf with all the awards and stuff, and I look at my counterpart that I grew up with, the Paul Newmans and the George C. Scotts and the Marlon Brandos and Steve McQueen's and those guys, and they got to play their history on the screen. They got to play in the Holocaust. They got to play Napoleon and the Romans and the Greeks and King Arthur and the Vikings. They got to see. You get to see, and you and I can talk about European culture for hours because of what we saw in films, the westerns and stuff. Ours is not there. It's not in the schools. It's not on the screen, nor in the books that they serve in the schools. So there's a less than informational thing in our people. And they opt for a subculture, are young, and they know everything about that, and they don't realize how powerful even the subculture is. But we need a service. We need to give those children, those people, the arms, the peaceful arms in which they need to survive and be equal in this planet, not just in this country. And there's African roots, there's things that we must learn about the African civilizations, about our contribution all across and all around the world with the explorers, the athletes, the scientists, the actors, all of us. We are pretty powerful, and we need to know that and give that to our children and tell them there's no such thing as impossible. And they go through the door of opportunities today when they couldn't before. And they should go for the gold. There should just be no such thing as impossible for them. And then they could be equal citizens in this country and this world. And then we can maybe replicate what our president is doing.
We're talking with Louis Gossett Jr. He details his life story in his new book, An Actor and a Gentleman, just out with Phyllis Karras. It's just out, published by John Wiley. And let's go back to when you first became an actor, because it wasn't what you always wanted to do, but you end up being very successful at something that wasn't always in the radar.
It was by accident. By accident, my teacher told me that they were trying out. They couldn't find anybody in the business. So they were ready to train somebody to play a lead in a Broadway show, my first job, in 1953, in a play called Take a Giant Step. And so after a series of interviews and auditions, I got the part. So I got lucky. I found what I was put on the planet to do, to communicate, to be an artist. And not many of us on this planet, especially in this country, get to do what we are best talented for, because we don't have the wherewithal to investigate it. But I would suggest that we search for that thing in our lives of what we do best and make a success with that.
And it's sometimes so hard to do, isn't it? Because we often mask that feeling. We don't feel totally comfortable with that feeling because it requires, first of all, the craft of acting, for example, it requires you to be naked with your own feelings, you have to go,
Absolutely.
You understand?
And we have to devote our lives and sacrifice for it.
Yes.
And then we're also busy surviving. And survival is one thing. We don't have to, some of us do have to do that, but there's got to be a bottom line there. Even when there was segregation, we did it very well. We kind of abandoned it during integration, thinking that we had the path to the goal, which we still don't have. We have it inside. It's an inside job.
You know, you said it's an inside job, and understanding and believing in it and pursuing it, and you did that at New York University,
yes, I did.
Where you were able to study with some of the best, and you credit some of the great actors of all time, Christopher Plummer, Sir Laurence Olivier, as people that you study. What is it about what they do with the craft that you admire so much?
Well, them and Sidney Poitier and Frank Silvera, my teacher.
Sure.
You could look at them with a fine-tooth comb and not see an empty moment. It's seamless. Their performances are seamless. You see them totally involved at all times, even when they're not speaking.
They never leave the moment.
They never leave the character.
And so would you say that was something that you learned early and you inhabited that in every role?
There is no diploma.
Okay.
Neither in life nor in the arts. So there's no graduation. It's just the journey.
Yeah, and that's really so important. You write about some of the demons that you face in your life, and I wonder what happens how did you get on that road? How did you get on that path? Well,
you get into it through frustration, and that's the generational, especially for the men and sometimes the women now. When you know that you're good and you know that you've won awards and you still don't get the gold, there's a frustration, and you inherit the resentment code. And at my time, the resentment was poets who did it. They had poetry and music about it. And so it felt glorious to object and to fight for rights and stuff and to be frustrated. But if you have the disease of alcoholism in your system, it goes negative and you become self-destructive. And it's not the way to survive, obviously. So you have to do something about it. And God has the answer. If you listen and you change your life, and thank God I've changed mine, so that doesn't happen. It doesn't bother me anymore. So it helps you when you do that program and you don't use your own mind with it, and you get the inspiration of greater thinking out of the books and out of the prayers. Then you're right-sized and you're humble, and then you get the gold.
You know, I'm listening to you, and I think about coming through that. But so many, I mean, we look at what Lindsay Lohan is going through right now. So many young people in the business, so many actors in the business, some of them, Robert Downey Jr., all find there's a, what is it that the substance abuse, the drugs, the alcohol, you write about
that's their
that.
lifestyle. I think it's important. It's just important to fit in. But as opposed to me, it must be zero tolerance for me. But you know, Robert Downey Jr. now he's a big money maker, and Lindsay Lohan will come out of jail and go straight to a job.
Mm-hmm. But for you,
but I haven't worked on a major motion picture in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nor have I ever made $1 million in any movie I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So it wears on you.
It does, and so then you look for some release, some
release somewhere where you can really relax, and you slip into the wrong mode.
Mm-hmm.
In private.
In private.
When you get on the screen, it's not there.
You know, it's interesting because what was amazing to me is how even during some of the roles that you've been most noted for, that you sort of had this dual life going on.
Oh, well, in front of the camera is freedom.
Mm.
You celebrate that. Everything seems to get out of the way for it. And then when things start to pervade and I got sick other than that, then I had to kind of semi-retire and step aside and take care of my health.
My wife says that when she was a little girl, she would see your image. Anytime she saw your image anywhere on the screen, she was engaged. She said that you were an actor to watch. And my son wants to be an actor.
Now it's better. We can go for the gold now, but we need to know the information that keeps us up there.
Well,
not just our talents.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talented people, but what we bring with it for that talent, the way we were raised, the things that we were taught to in families, that doesn't happen anymore. Has to happen now, maybe in a charter school or a center, where they learn those basics of self-respect and the knowledge and respect of the elders and the opposite sex and the dress code, etc. We need to learn that. That's our foundation for success in life.
You know, it's so true. We're talking with Louis Gossett Jr. He is, of course, an Academy Award-winning actor, over 75 films. He pours it all on the line in his book, An Actor and a Gentleman. And in that book, he talks about his life story, the good, the bad, the ugly, the humiliation, and the pain. And let me go to one of those painful parts, because you talk about the time you came home and you found that your wife was gone.
Yeah. She was gone, and my child was gone. And she probably had some of that disease in her, from her family. And it was 2.5 years before I found him again. And, of course, I raised him now. He's my son, and I have great-grandchildren from him.
Sure.
But I didn't know where they were. I would have to deposit the alimony to a lawyer who wouldn't tell me where she was. And I was called by a man in Hawaii telling me that I wasn't taking care of my son well enough. And I said I didn't know where he was. And I told him the story, and he took the son on for a shopping trip straight to the airport and sent him to me. And he was 2.5 years old. And I took him from there on and raised him myself.
And I know that you were then also accused by the same ex-wife of supplying drugs to your children. That was another painful episode.
And that was thrown away.
And was thrown away.
It was in the headlines, but it was thrown away.
It was thrown away. But I'm saying that just having to go through that, you said that affected you pretty much till today.
Well, of course, because you're watched 24/7. And so now here at 74, they can watch me all they want. I'm transparent. It doesn't matter. I'm free.
You know, we have a connection because people don't realize that you have Syracuse connections, right?
Yes, that's my son, that same boy.
Satie Gossett.
Yes, Satie, named after Eric Satie, the French composer. His mother had a diet of hot sauce and Ritz crackers. So you know about a crack baby, he was a hot sauce baby.
Uh-huh.
And he was born crying his eyes out, and his temperature rose. So I started putting music in the ward, and I played Miles Davis. His name was almost Miles. The name was almost Nino for Nina Simone. And, and finally, Eric Satie's Trois Gymnopathies, the name was called. And when you hear it, you'll understand. He stopped, he put his thumb in his mouth, and went to sleep.
And that's how you kind of saying. So you've been to Syracuse then, because he.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And when they had to put the antifreeze on the wings of the planes, so you get out there and go to work.
And then then, of course, you work with Richard Gere, who
who's from there too.
Right from North Syracuse, right here. That film certainly was a transformative role for African American actors and yourself.
It wasn't written for one, though.
And wasn't. And how did you get that role?
My agent and I, we started breaking the doors down on television, and then we did it. We found a role in a motion picture and won the argument and got the part.
And just the fact that obviously you won the Oscar for that part, so you obviously did that. But the symbolism of that, this is what year, 1982?
Yeah.
And certainly, so that we're right out of the 70s. We're still kind of right out of blaxploitation, and there you are. At that time, remember, black folk didn't live in the movies, not ordering white male actors around, and there you are.
And there I am by myself right after Sidney. Sidney Poitier had his life kind of secured, and I had the brunt. I didn't have the protection. I had the brunt of everything in dressing rooms, and finally I had to work through all of that in order to make it also get them out of my way so I could do a proper performance in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And now a lot of those people who gave me a hard time are friends of mine, and so we all grow. Well, the thing that happened in Hollywood is, do you remember the movie L.A. Confidential?
Yes.
That's how it was.
Well, there's a part, you write, though, that movie, because of how you take care of Richard Gere in the movie, that there is that they had to protect you from certain places because people thought that life and art were the same thing.
Well, they still do. Sylvester Stallone or Van Damme or any of those guys would walk into a bar. Somebody get drunk enough to try you, so I didn't go.
I realize that must be. Is that just unusual? Is that?
I think it's par for the course, but I don't go to bars, so I don't know.
Tell me about your you. How do you choose your roles?
I choose them for a challenge. I want them to be a physical or emotional or both. A challenge, like Enemy Mine. That's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see your face or your eyes. Everything is covered, and you still come up with a performance that an audience is like.
Well, you said that, speaking of roles and challenges, you said that we all remember you from Roots and Fiddler, and you said that you write in the book that Fiddler and Foley are connected. Now, they're very different. Fiddler's obviously a slave. Foley is an officer. How do you see them as the same?
They're survivors. They make it so they can be continued. So Foley is the sad one, though, because he doesn't have a marriage, obviously. So he's married to what he does. His family is all his recruits. You talk about surviving. You're a survivor. You had it was announced earlier this year that you had prostate cancer, but the good news is that I'm completely recovered. Completely.
All right. And you describe it as being that God ain't ready for you yet.
That's what he said when I came close to death's door, when I had an infected lung problem and I almost died in the hospital two Decembers ago. I think I heard a voice that said, "It's not your turn. Go back." And I serve him. I serve the server. I'm of service now. I'm humbled. I'm stress-free. Eat properly, sleep properly, take care of myself. And so it looks like I'm going to be here. Today I feel wonderful.
70, how old? 74, 75?
74.
74 years old. And, a
lot of us have not made it that old. A lot of people are dying at 50 and 60 these days.
And when you look back over the many films, obviously there is some bitterness, do you think, because you didn't make the money that others who had the same, you're a working actor in Hollywood, so that's a good thing. But a lot of people thought, Louis Gossett Jr., he must be a multimillionaire, and yet you say you never made $1 million
in any movie. And so that's in the past. I don't carry bitterness anymore.
Okay.
I get rid of it all. It's self-destructive.
You know what? And isn't that the lesson, right? That's the wisdom of age that enables you to say, you know what? Now here I am. What am I going to do with this?
Let me be of service. Let me talk to the young, which is what my job is. Let me mentor the young, whoever will listen. I can't tell anybody what to do, but I have to tell them my story, and maybe they can learn from it. If they ask me questions, those are the answers that's in your interview you'll get.
Tell me about The Least Among You, because I know that that's a very important project for you.
It's a faith-based film, but a true story. And it's the same lesson I'm telling you. When you get to it's all through the Bible and all through books, great books. When a man had to go through a baptism of fire, and what he does during that baptism of fire and comes out the other end is success in the rest of his life. We all have to go through a trial, and if we survive that trial with faith and goodwill and a constant knowledge that we will not fail, with faith that we're not going to fail, we become stronger and we survive. It's just a test.
But it's just a test.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about your career and some of the people that you admire, and you describe them as Nelson Mandela, Dr. King, Gandhi.
Yeah.
What do you think, Louis, really transformed you to be where you are? I mean, what was?
Their experiences. I learned from their experiences, especially Mandela.
Yes.
There's nothing that happened to him that ever happened to me. Terrible things happened to that man. He was a leader of the people, and they held their breath when he was about to come out. They thought he could come out and say, kill everyone. And they came out with that philosophy, and as a result, we just had the greatest World Cup of soccer ever.
That's right.
And he did that. And I do what he does. I have his philosophy. I think it's the best there is and the only way to go.
So your advice to the rest of us as we look at our lives, I mean, do you believe that no matter where you are, at what point in your life, you can still be the best, do your dream, and have the dream that you want? Do you believe that?
Absolutely. It's a dream of service, which is all we should be doing, taking care of one another. We've got some children to take care of. They don't know what to do. We need to take care of them.
Tell me what you think about Tyler Perry's success, Will Smith's success, and this new generation and what it might mean.
I hope it means that we should all go in that same direction, and the young should follow. But that inside job is first and foremost most important. Tyler Perry definitely has it. And Will Smith's son shows that he has some of it there too. And Will Smith's father, whom I met at one time, probably has given it to Will. So it's a three-generational thing with Will and Jada. I think I'm very proud of all of them. Jamie, Forrest, Denzel, Morgan. I'm very proud of all of them. And the ladies are outstanding.
Yeah, and it's a new crop. So for those people who are listening to Louis Gossett Jr., first of all, we recommend that you get the book and really get the wisdom of someone who really has seen it all and lays it on the line for you. He's busy. He's got a foundation, the Eracism Foundation, whose mission it is to, essentially erase racism.
Right. We can't go any further with it. It's like a drug. It's like an addiction.
So
we've done it for generations for so long, we don't even know we're doing it.
And see, this is the issue, right? In a time like this where some people believe that we've overcome and some people sort of lay down on the job and not really continue to speak up and advocate. I mean, what has to change? I mean, how do
We're already there, so that's just, we can't tell Caucasian people to change. We have to affect the change ourselves and lower their fear because they're afraid. They're paranoid. They think that just like the Afrikaner in South Africa, they did not know what Mandela was going to do. When he came out with a smile, there was a sigh of relief, and a large portion of apartheid disappeared. But they had been doing it so long for generations on both sides. It's going to take another generation for that to go away. It's going to take another generation for it to go away here in America. Even with the Friends, we need to practice how to live together and get the children to practice that. But before we get the children to practice that, it's got to be absent from us. And it helps a great deal if we saw more of that on our screens. And, of course, in the schools.
You obviously, as a producer, you can influence that. And that's probably what we should be saying to young people as well, that there's all different kinds of ways to be in this business to tell the stories.
Right.
And
absolutely.
And
so now we are in the promised land that Dr. King promised we're there. We just have the courage and the faith that goes through that door and seek the gold because we're heir apparent for that.
Louis Gossett Jr. is our guest. The name of the book is An Actor and a Gentleman, an actor and a gentleman. That's his memoir. Oh, I have the question. If I would have hung up this phone and not asked you this question, you have, tell me why the cover. Describe why the cover looks like this.
Well, it's a photograph from the Blacklist, which is one where you have to be rigorously honest. They're just trying to show them as peaceful as a person as they can see. So what you see is what you get. Okay.
Because you got your hand over your heart. So I wondered if there was something.
Well, it's affairs of the heart. The thing around the neck is a symbol from recovering from drugs and alcohol. There's peace in the face, and it's a new look, and it's the one that's the most important. There's nothing to hide. Look.
His website is louisgossett.com, where you can find out all about what he's doing.
Or Logo Entertainment Foundation.org. EracismFoundation.org.
EracismFoundation.org. louisgossett.com. Also, the Logo Entertainment, you said?
Yes, EracismFoundation.org and LogoEntertainment.net, I believe.
LogoEntertainment.net. But look, get this book, folks. Read this book and find out about a tremendous career in Hollywood. Find out about an actor and a gentleman, Louis Gossett Jr., who we know he's got a lot more to do. And we know that what he has done has blessed so many people and has really inspired so many. And I'm hoping that those who have heard your voice today are inspired to do what you suggest. Be of service.
Be the best you can. And if you can vote, you know who to vote for in 3.5 years.
Do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do.
Louis Gossett Jr. is our new inspiration for the nation.
Thank you, sir.